Hello, my dear students. Hope you all are doing fine. Stay safe at your homes. We will soon meet once this lockdown period would be over. The topic which we are going to discuss today is whistleblowing. Whistleblowing, the term has been derived from blowing a whistle. You have often seen the referees in the match or the police on the road blowing a whistle in order to indicate that something wrong has been done, some foul is there. Likewise, in any organization, when an employee feels that something wrong has been done, something wrong is going on in any organization, then he needs to report that wrongdoing to the concerned authorities so that appropriate action can be taken by the appropriate person and corrective actions are implemented and the problem can be resolved. The term whistleblowing came from the year 1950, and it was originally used by the employees to indicate that something wrong has been done. But nowadays it has a vast scope. Apart from the indication that something wrong has been done, a proper whistleblowing policy is there with every organization, which helps them to take corrective actions at the appropriate time so that no harm can be done to the general public or to the employees or to anyone who is concerned, who is having some interest in their business. So we'll see in this topic what it is all about, what are the various advantages and disadvantages related to the whistleblowing, what are the various policies which the organization forms for whistleblowing, what are the various rules, what are the various acts which are related with whistleblowing. We are going to see all these topics in detail in this lecture. So a famous quoting by Martin Luther King that our lives begin to end the day we became silent about things that matter. If we are not going to speak about the thing that matters a lot, then there is no use of us to being alive on the earth. So this quotation is very well linked with the whistleblowing. When an employee sees something wrong is being going on in any organization, then he should report it immediately to the appropriate person so that corrective actions can be taken. Another quotation is, "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps perpetrate it." That means if you are not actively involved in something wrong which is going in an organization, but then you are passively involved, that means you know what is happening, but in spite of that, you are not taking any step, you are not reporting that issue, then that would become something serious later on. Then the meaning of whistleblowing, it is the instance of reporting improper activities to an appropriate person. It is very important that whatever reporting is being done, it should be done to the concerned person. If there is no one in the organization who is going to listen, then that should be reported to the general public. We can take an example of a pharma industry. Suppose a medicine or a drug is being manufactured there, the side effects of which should be known to the general public, which is very, very important to safeguard the lives. But then the pharma company somehow decided that they are not going to disclose that side effects on the packet, over the packing of that medicine. And some employee came to know this, that they are willingly not disclosing that side effects. Then in that case, that person, that employee should report the same to the top managers, indicating that it can cause a great harm to the general public. And in case the top managers or the top management deny that being mentioning the side effects of that medicine, that particular medicine, the sale may reduce. So they have taken a decision that yes, they are not going to mention the side effects. But then that, as per that employee, it is very, very important to mention, otherwise it may cause severe damage to the lives of many general public. So in that case, if the company is not listening, that employee has a right to report that to the public, to the government, in order to safeguard the life of the public. So it is not necessary that it is to be reported to the general public, but in case top management is not listening, then it becomes mandatory for the employee to disclose it to the general public so that proper action, appropriate action can be taken and the life of general public can be saved. Now, meaning we have already discussed. However, there are various interpretations which we can discuss. That whistleblower should be a member of the organization. He should not be an outside person who is going to report the matter. He must be the employee or inside the organization. He must discuss it first with the top management and then later on with the general public. Okay, then evidence should be there so that it can be reported. In case evidence is not there and the person wants to report the matter, nobody is going to believe it. So proper evidence must be there with the employee who is going to report something wrong. Then it must become the moral duty of the employee to report the wrong act, because it is morally responsibility of everyone, not only in the organization but in the entire world, to safeguard each other. So it should become the moral responsibility, right? And something illegal, something unethical, something wrong which he seems that it should be reported, whether it is related to a public organization or a private organization, it should be reported at any case. Okay, and then release of information by a member of an organization is nothing but the whistleblowing. Okay, so it is not a protest, it is not something which is being done to take a revenge. It is actually the moral responsibility of the employee to report the same so that no harm can be done, whether it is directly or indirectly, to the employees, to the public as a whole. Now, what are the various features which are related to the whistleblowing? First one is individual act. Whistleblowing is an individual act. It is not something which is related to a group of persons. It is not something which is related to a team of persons. Whenever a person feels that yes, something wrong is there, he should immediately report it to the appropriate persons. The reporting must be done to the appropriate persons. Example, in an organization, if an employee feels that something wrong is being done and he wants to disclose it to someone, but then he's not in a position to report it to the top managers, and he reported to his colleague, which further suggests him that let it be, leave it, not required to be reported, then in that case it won't become a whistleblowing, because you have not reported the same to the concerned authorities. The person to whom you have reported doesn't make sense. He is not in a position to take appropriate actions. He is not in a position to report it further. So there is no use of reporting or discussing the matter to the inappropriate person. So it is an individual act and should be reported to the concerned person. The next is moral motive. It is done for some good reason. It is not being done for some selfish purpose. It should not be done for the purpose of taking a revenge from someone. It is a moral responsibility of everyone to protect the general public, to protect all the employees in the organization, rather to protect each other as a whole. If he feels that something wrong is there, he should immediately take it as a moral responsibility and report it further. The next is reasonable belief. The whistleblower should have a particular belief that the activity which he is going to report is inappropriate in any sense. He should have a reasonable belief that from my reporting something good would happen. He should have a reasonable belief that if he takes a step of not reporting the same, then there would be a problem for the employees, for the public, for somebody would be in trouble. So that feeling, that belief should be there inside him, that he has to report it, because in case he's not going to report, somebody would surely be in trouble. Then calling attention of proper authorities. It is not like he wants to seek attention just to become famous or popular, that yes, I am the person who is actually loyal to the organization by reporting the facts. No, this feeling should not be there in him. He should have a feeling that he's not seeking the attention because he wants to become famous or popular among the management, but then he is reporting the same because he wants everyone to be benefited out of his act. Then next is expectations of positive response. The whistleblower should have a feeling of security that whatever I am reporting would be taken in positive sense, and some action would be taken, would surely be taken by the management in order to seize the improper things which are being happening in any organization. The next is voluntary act. Whistleblowing is totally voluntary. That means the employee or the person who wants to blow a whistle is under no compulsion to report any act which he feels is incorrect. So it is totally a voluntary act. It is actually a moral responsibility of the employee to report that something wrong is happening here. Nobody is forcing him, no act, no law, no policy, no rules and regulation. Nobody is forcing him at all. It is actually his moral responsibility to get it resolved. Then several types. Yes, whistleblowing can be of several types. It can be insider whistleblowing. It can be outsider whistleblowing. This we have already discussed. Insider whistleblowing means when he is reporting the same inside the organization, that is to top management or the appropriate person in the organization. Outside reporting means when he is reporting the same to the outside persons, that is outside his organization, which can be government, which can be public, which can be media, which can be any source which is outside the organization. So yes, whistleblowing can be of, it can be insider also, it can be outsider also. Now, what actually goes inside the mind of a whistleblower? What he actually thinks? First of all, a feeling comes in his mind that this is wrong, I should do something. This feeling is actually the initiation phase of a whistleblowing. That something wrong is there and the person is feeling that I should do something for the same. Then again a thought comes into his mind that can I make a difference? Is my reporting would be taken seriously? So that point, the answer to this question will actually define whether the person is going to take a step further or not. Then he may think, should I be the one to say something? I am the only person who can make a difference. A lot of people knows about it. Let them blow the whistle. Why should I? Then this answer, if this answer goes into negative, that is, why should I? Should I be the one to say something? This, which means, am I the only person who can make a difference? There are a lot of persons in the organization. If they are not reporting, why should I? Why should I take the bold step? If it comes into the mind of the person, then he won't say anything. But then when it comes morally to him that yes, I have to say something, I have to make a difference, then in that case, he will surely say something for the benefit of all. Then again, the question comes in his mind, who can I rely on for help? Who is the person on which I can rely? Here the question is actually, who is the appropriate person? To whom should I report? Should I report to my manager or should I report to the top management? And in case top management is not listening, to whom should I report further? Would it be media? Would it be government? Would it be public? How I am going to move ahead? So all this question comes inside the mind of a whistleblower, that whether I would be making any difference. Why should I make a difference? If I am going to make a difference, to whom I am going to report, whether that person would take it in a positive sense, whether that person would actually help me, whether that person would actually take that discussion to a positive manner. So all these goes inside the mind of a whistleblower. Then again, the types of whistleblowing, which we have already discussed: internal whistleblowing, or we can call it as an insider whistleblowing. Then external whistleblowing. In internal whistleblowing, it actually discloses about the improper conduct of a person within the organization. Its purpose is to get the matter investigated in accordance with the organization rules and procedures. When the person is reporting the same to the internal authorities, then his intention is that whatever policy is there in an organization. Nowadays, every organization is having a proper whistleblowing policy. So whatever policy the organization is having, whatever rules they have made, the proper action is expected as per the rules and regulations. So the person will think that whatever I am reporting, first I'm reporting to the appropriate persons. Second, that appropriate persons are going to take the proper action as per the rules and regulations of the organization. There is external whistleblowing, which which actually comes into place when the insider authorities don't take any steps further. When the insider authorities decide that whatever the person wants to report, that reporting will actually create a problem for the organization, then in that case, external whistleblowing is the step which the person is expected to take. In that case, the person has to decide to whom he is going to report further, whether it would be the media, whether it would be enforcement authorities, whether it would be public interest, whether it would be some government agency. That step is required to be taken by the person himself. So the decision, the policy of whistleblowing actually says that you have to go step by step. First of all, it should be insider, it should be internal. When it is not being done, then it should go to the external. You should not give up the protocol that I am going to report it simply to the general public. Actually, it is also your moral responsibility to discuss it firstly within an organization, that is to the concerned persons, appropriate persons, to the top managers. And in case they actually fails to take any action, be it deliberately or non-deliberately, then in that case, that should be further reported to the outside agencies. And then further, in case of outside agencies, that also needs to be decided that who is the appropriate person. Should it be disclosed at a first step to the general public, or it should be done step by step, first to the government, then to the media, and then finally to the general public. So that all is actually being decided by the whistleblower, and that should be done by taking it as a moral responsibility. Then it can be personal whistleblowing. Personal whistleblowing is actually when a particular person or a class of persons is subjected to immoral behavior or exploitation. When in an organization, a particular person is being targeted so that he should not report something which is actually a wrong in an organization, then that disclosure is personal whistleblowing. Then corporate whistleblowing, which is actually disclosing about the misconduct on the part of a company. Then government whistleblowing, which is actually reporting about the wrong or immoral conduct on the part of government or its officials or its department. Okay, so corporate whistleblowing is actually when you are reporting about a corporate, and government whistleblowing is actually when you are reporting about the government as a whole. The next topic is, what are the various motives of whistleblowing? What are the various motives of whistleblowing? What actually comes inside the mind of a person when he decides to blow a whistle? Then first is to enforce ethical conduct. So ethical conduct is the ethics. Ethics are basically the rules and regulations which actually works in an organization. They are basically the principles which every organization, every person follows in their life. Okay, so whenever the person feels that something unethical is going on, so in that case, that person wants to enforce the ethical conduct and he reports and he goes for a whistleblowing. So basically it is related to the ethical conduct. Whenever the person or the whistleblower feels that some ethical behavior is expected out of the organization, which it is not doing, then in that case, the person decides to go for a whistleblowing. Then to highlight the dangers, the example that we have discussed in the beginning related to the pharma company, that in case the side effects of medicine is not going to be mentioned over the cover or the envelope of the medicine, in that case, it can actually cause damage, or it can actually become a danger to the whole world as a, or the whole public as a whole. So in that case, it is actually protecting the general public from the possible dangers from the use of a product or a technology. Then next is to highlight threat to the public. Yes, if something is there which can actually, cause a threat to the general public, that needs to be reported in the whistleblowing. And then obviously out of the moral behavior, if the person wants to report something, then that actually becomes the motive of whistleblowing. So motive of whistleblowing is actually what is the main purpose which comes into the mind of a whistleblower, and as per that purpose he reports whether whether it is right or wrong. He decides on that purpose and he actually blows a whistle. So whenever he feels that something unethical is going on, it becomes my moral responsibility. It can become a threat to the public. it can become a danger to the society. So if any of these comes inside the mind of a person, that actually becomes the motive of whistleblowing. So it is very necessary for the person to clear about the motive on the basis of which he is going to blow a whistle. And not only the motive should be clear, proper evidence should also be there with the whistleblower on the basis of which he is going to report or on the basis of which he is going to blow a whistle. So evidence should be there. The motive should be very, very clear inside the mind of a whistleblower. Only then it makes sense. If the person is not clear why he is reporting the same, if he is not having sufficient evidence for the same, nobody is going to listen to him, be it internal parties, be it external parties. So whatever the motive it is should be very, very clear. Whatever the evidences are available with the person, that should also be very, very clear with him. Now, who should actually judge the whistleblower? This is actually a dilemma that whistleblower should be judged by the government or by the third party or by the organization itself. So it actually depends upon the organization policy that who is going to judge the whistleblower. No doubt that appropriate person to whom he is going to report the matter would actually judge him. Now, what are the conditions for justified whistleblowing? Why the person is going to blow a whistle? The conditions should be justified, or you can say the pre-requirements for blowing a whistle. And then in this, the first one is situation of sufficient moral importance. Sufficient moral importance. Situation should be there where it becomes the moral responsibility of the person to blow a whistle. For example, side effects of a drug. This example we have already discussed, that whenever you feel that it is my moral responsibility to report an improper conduct or something wrong, then in that case, yes, a condition is very much justified for blowing a whistle. So it is actually depends upon the person that whether he is feeling that yes, I should blow a whistle because it becomes my moral responsibility. So that purpose, that condition should be very much clear. Then situation when all facts of information are properly understood with their significance. Yes, proper documentation should be there with the person who is actually blowing a whistle. He should not jump into any conclusion without having some valid information. That we have already discussed, I guess, that sufficient evidence should be there with the whistleblower. It should not be like that some thought comes into his mind and he decides to report it. Why? Because he wants to get name and fame. He wants to become famous among the management that yes, I am taking care of the organization. I am taking care of each and everything which is happening in the organization. No. You have to have very much clarity in what you are reporting, why you are reporting, what are the evidence with you. So the conditions or the information should be properly understood along with their significance. It is also important that yes, if you are reporting something that should be materially significant for the organization or for the employees or for the general public. It should not be a small matter which needs to be highlighted to get it corrected. So that although that matter may be important, small matter may also be important, but that can be rectified by reporting it to your immediate supervisors or with discussing with your colleagues and finding out a solution. When you are going for whistleblowing, then proper significant matter should be there, and then proper understanding of the matter, proper evidence of the matter should also be there with you before proceeding further. The next is all internal channels have to be utilized without a step short of whistleblowing. So this is actually the protocol that you have to have utilized. You have to have discussion with the top management or the appropriate persons within an organization before moving out of the organization, because it also becomes a moral responsibility of all the employees to discuss the matter internally first. And if no action is being taken, then that can be opened in the general public. But first of all, you have to keep the secrets of the company very much secret, and if something wrong is there, then that should be resolved firstly at the organization level, and if nothing happens, then only in that case you can take it to the outside world. So these three conditions are very, very important for whistleblowing. Moral importance should be there, then condition should be very significant, and then all internal channels should be utilized first before going for the outside channels. Then what are the various advantages of whistleblowing? The first one is exposing unethical behavior, very well understood by now. That unethical behavior, if someone feels that something unethically is being going on in any organization, be it public, be it private, then that exposure to that unethical behavior can be done with the help of whistleblowing. If assume this kind of policy is not there in any organization, then what can employee do? He feels that something wrong is happening, but he also fears that in case he is going to report that, he may be fired from the organization because the organization is not having any policy for whistleblowing. Then in that case, employees normally choose to remain silent because they do not want to lose their work. So exposure of unethical behavior can easily be done with the help of whistleblowing policy. Legal protection, nowadays in our country, we have a lot of laws for, we'll discuss laws also for this whistleblowing policy. So legal protection is always there with the employee. He need not to fear about his job, about some kind of threat to his life. So he should not be in a position to fear all these things. Then public safety, yes, because of unethical behavior, immoral behavior of any organization, public should not be at harm at any cost. So public safety can also be ensured with the help of whistleblowing policy. Then moral responsibility. Yes, of course, it becomes a moral responsibility of all the employees to take care of everything which is going on in the organization. It should be properly doing all the activities as per the rules and regulations so that nobody should be at harm in any case. Then have a look at the disadvantages of whistleblowing policy. Diminished career prospects. It may happen that once you report something which is significant for the company in the whistleblowing policy, you may not get proper promotions on time. It may happen that some of the top manager or top management becomes envy of you. So it may happen that you have a diminished career prospects after reporting something wrong. Then personal complications surely would be there. You may lose your good relationship with some of your colleagues, some of your seniors, some of your juniors. It may also happen. So the person who is reporting should be prepared for the personal complications related to the whistleblowing policy. Then retaliations of this whistleblowing can be in the form of firing. Yes, it can be in the form of blacklisting. It can be in the form of intimidation, that is creation of fear. Then it can again be in the form of various threats, and then conflict of interest would always be there while working in the organization. So as per the policies of the organizations, this whistleblowing policy plays a very significant role. It clearly indicates that whosoever is going to blow a whistle, the identity of that person would remain secret. That will not be disclosed to the company, to the other employees of the company. That will also not to be disclosed to the general public also. Now, what are the various effects of whistleblowing? Let's discuss it one by one. It may be asked to the employee to leave the organization forcefully, or some demotion may be given to the employee due to which he may be forced to leave the organization. Then credibility would be ruined. Credibility of the organization would be surely ruined because of whistleblowing. Because in case of whistleblowing, something wrong is being reported by the whistleblower, which may actually become a threat to the goodwill of the company. Then physical or psychological isolation. The person who is reporting something wrong, who is reporting some significant thing, who is reporting some unethical thing going on in an organization, he may face some physical or psychological isolation because of this whistleblowing policy. Then family, health, and life all would be in threat in case any person wants to take revenge of whistleblower because he has reported something very, very significant to the general public or to some authorities, then that person may want to take some revenge from the whistleblower. Then outrage of people directly or indirectly involved. Then incarceration would be there. Incarceration is basically imprisonment for the persons who have actually done something wrong. So it may also happen. An organization may experience loss of money, loss of reputation, loss of productivity. So all this may become the side effects of whistleblowing policy. So whistleblowing policy may affect not only to the person who actually reported the fact, it may also affect the organization as a whole in case goodwill may be ruined, credibility may be ruined, reputation may be ruined, and then loss of money, loss of clients, some penalty may be imposed by the government. So that can be the effects to the organization. And the person who is actually a whistleblower, he may be asked to leave the organization. Then some kind of demotion may be given to him. Then he may face psychological isolation, although he is not asked to leave the organization, but then people in the organization, they are no more interested in having a link with that person, because they know that he has actually reported something. So in future he may be at risk, and we don't want to risk our job, so they may keep a physical distance from the person, so that person may be at a psychological isolation. So all these are the effects of whistleblowing to the whistleblower. Then what actually are the components of whistleblowing policy? While formulating a policy related to whistleblower, the company needs to take care of various points. What are the various components which which company actually formulates? We'll discuss it one by one. Effective communicated statement of responsibility. Whatever the policy is, it should be effectively communicated with a sense of responsibility to all the employees within an organization. Then a clear defined procedure of reporting. Whatever the process of reporting is, it should be clearly defined in the whistleblowing policy. The person should know to whom he is supposed to report, how he is supposed to report, what actions would be taken in case he is going to report the some unethical, some immoral things to the organization. So proper procedure of reporting should be there. Then well-trained persons to receive and investigate reports. Yes, appropriate persons to whom he is going to report. That person should be well-trained persons, and they should know how to investigate the matter, how to investigate the report, how to close the report, how to give unbiased communication in case any whistleblower reports something. Then whistleblowing policy should again give a commitment that yes, in case something wrong is going on in an organization, then appropriate steps would be surely be taken in order to rectify that. Then a guarantee against retaliation reports in good faith. This is actually a guarantee that yes, if you are reporting something, your identity would be kept as a secret. You are not going to face anything wrong in future. That is firing from the organization, demotion from the organization, isolation from the organization. That side effect would not come to you in case you are reporting, in case you are blowing a whistle. So a whistleblowing policy should be very much clear to each and every staff, so that in case they want to report something, they must know it, how to report, to whom they are going to report, what would be the after effects of the policy. So policy should be very, very clear to everyone in the organization. Then when whistleblowing is morally unjustified, when actually a person should not blow a whistle, there are certain conditions in which it is being said that whistleblowing is unjustified. What are those conditions? We are going to discuss that now. So internal channels are not used. When the person making the disclosure has not tried the internal channels and he actually goes out into the public and he reports something very secret related to the organization, then it becomes morally unjustified. Because the policy, we have just discussed the whistleblowing policy, and in that policy it is clearly mentioned that what are the various steps you are supposed to take in case you want to report something to the organization. So that steps should not be jumped by any employee. It becomes immoral in that case. You have to use internal channels first of all, and in case internal channels are not actually working, then in that case only you have to report it to the external channels. Then insufficient evidence. This we have already discussed, that whenever a person decides to report something, then proper evidence should be there with him. In case evidence are not there, nobody is going to listen to him, or whatever, however significant thing he is going to report, nobody is going to believe him. So substantial evidence should be there with the person, that whatever conduct is wrong, that may cause a serious harm to the other parties, only then he should go ahead. Then little chances of success. Whistleblowing is not justified in case it is uncertain that it will prevent the wrong. Then breach of trust, whatever trust the employees have on you, you should not breach that trust. You have to report it firstly to your internal organization, and then only you should move ahead with the outside world. So whistleblowing becomes unjustified in the mentioned cases. However, these cases are only related to the steps which are being followed in any organization under the whistleblowing policy. If the employee is following all those steps one by one, if he is doing whatever is written in their whistleblowing policies, then there is nothing like unjustified in blowing a whistle. Then what are the various benefits and the dangers of company whistleblowing policy? What are the benefits? Benefits is that you will learn from the mistakes and the problems in the early stage itself. Before causing harm to the general public, to the employees as a whole, or to any party, mistakes and problems can be rectified in the initial stage if someone blows a whistle related to that. If it is too late to take any corrective action, then blowing a whistle would not actually help. So learning from the mistakes and problems in the early stage can be a advantage related to the whistleblowing policy. Then it also shows commitment towards the good ethics and ethical corporate climate. If someone blows a whistle, then it actually shows that he has a commitment towards the ethics. He is morally committed to the company, and company is also giving proper opportunities to the employees to blow a whistle whenever they feel that something wrong is going on in any organization. So it actually shows that good corporate climate is there in any organization, and all the employees are given proper chance to say something which they think is unethical or immoral. It also shows that company is having a proper policy related to whistleblowing, and all the employees are also aware of that very policy. Now we will see what are the various dangers which are related to the whistleblowing policy. This we have already discussed, that employee may go outside of the normal communication channel, which is undesirable. That is, they choose not to report the case to the internal managers or to the internal management, but they choose to report it to the outside world, which actually becomes a threat to the company as a whole. Then it also gives, sometimes it also gives wrong signals to other employees, that if some tension is there, then they can blow a whistle and can divert the management out of that particular agenda, and can actually create a problem for the company as a whole. When some employees feels that yes, this agenda is on top priority of the management, and they want to divert the management from that particular agenda or some particular issue which is against that particular employee. So in that case, he'll blow a whistle for something else which is not significant, which is not evident, and he just want to divert the attention of the management from the main agenda. Then he may misuse the whistleblowing policy also. So that can be the dangers and the benefits related to the whistleblowing policy for a company. Then what are the various laws related to the whistleblowing policy in our country? Then we have Whistleblower Protection Law 1989. Then we also have Whistleblower Act 1994. We'll discuss all these laws in detail later on. Here I have only mentioned the names related to the whistleblowing policy. Now, various case studies are there related to this whistleblowing. We'll discuss the one case study that is related to Satinder Dubey here. Satinder Dubey is actually a person who is involved in this Golden Quadrilateral project. Golden Quadrilateral project was actually a project which wants to link the four corners of the world of India, that is Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai. In this project, it is being decided to link all these major cities, all these metro cities by building a highway. So what happens actually in this case, we'll see here. So Satinder Dubey was basically a 31 years old IIT graduate. So he was a civil engineering graduate. He was the employee of National Highway Authority of India, that is NHAI. He was assigned the Prime Minister pet project, that was Golden Quadrilateral, that was actually to connect the four corners of the India. He was posted in Jharkhand as a project director, and he was given in charge of releasing the funds for an extensive under construction highway. A highway was constructing on, and he was being given the charge of that highway because that was a dream project of Prime Minister. He wanted to link the four major metros of the country. So he was being assigned that project. Now, what he actually finds in this project? Sloppy project reports. Project reports were not clear at all. Contracts awarded on the basis of forged documents. The contract related to this Golden Quadrilateral project was assigned on the basis of forged document. Huge advances doled out to contractors. Then, actually, this project was given to L&T, that is Larsen and Toubro, which further gives it to the subcontractors who were actually not technologically advanced, who were actually not that efficient to run the project, and moreover, they were controlled by the local mafia of that particular area. So everyone from the government engineers to MNC construction companies to local thugs to local mafia, they were involved in the loot of public money. So after taking charge of this Golden Quadrilateral project, what he found was that something wrong is there in the project. He had a feeling of some unethical conduct. He had a feeling of some immoral things, and just because of these findings. And what were these findings? We have already discussed that project report is not very much clear what it is all about. Then all the contracts which are given that were based on the forged documents. Then the main contractor has given the contract to the further subcontractors, which were actually controlled by the local mafia. So the feeling which is coming in his mind was that all the people who are involved in this, related starting from the government engineers to the MNC construction companies to the lower employees to the lower actually the workers who were involved to the local mafia, that everyone is involved in something wrong which is related to this project. So what he actually did, he blowed a whistle. How he blowed a whistle? He wrote a letter to his boss, NHAI project director SK Soni, and to Brig Satish Kapoor, engineer overlooking the supervision. There was no action. So first he went internally. First he reported to internal persons. First he blowed a whistle to the internal authorities related to that project. In this case, it was an NHAI project, so he reported the same to the project director. But then no action was there from their side. Then what he did, he wrote a letter to the PM. He further wrote a letter to the PM that I am feeling something wrong is going on in this project. Then he also sent the same letter to the chairman of NHAI. Mr. Dubey anticipated trouble and wrote a second letter again requesting anonymity but was ignored. What he did, he first reported it to he blowed a whistle, that is very much clear that he find that something wrong is there. So he actually blowed a whistle. While blowing a whistle, he took proper steps. He first reported the same to the internal authorities. He first reported the same to the NHAI project director. But when no action was taken by him, then he further reported the same to the NHAI, to the chairman of NHAI, plus he also wrote a letter to the PM. But then no response came from their end. So what he finally did, he finally anticipated that some trouble is there, and he again wrote a second letter requesting anonymity, but then it was ignored. Requesting anonymity means that he wanted his name not to be disclosed, but then it was totally ignored. Then what was the blind deaf effect? Blind deaf effect to the voice raised by the Satinder Dubey. PMO did not bother either to investigate. No investigation was in fact carried out on his request. PMO handed over both the letters, first one and the second one which he has written, and the sheet with Satinder's particular to Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways. So they further, Prime Minister Office further handed over his letters to the Ministry of Road, Transport and Highways. At least 8 officials scanned it before passing on to the National Highway Authority of India. So actually it becomes public. A lot of people are being involved in handing over the letters, which was actually a secret from late Mr. Satinder Dubey to the PMO office, that something wrong is going on and corrective actions need to be taken on a very urgent basis. But then his anonymity was not kept secret. His identity was disclosed. The letter was handed over. The letter was handed over from PMO office to further authorities. And before being passed on to NHAI, it actually went into the hands of 8 officials. That means a lot of persons had been involved in this act. Then finally, in 2003, he was found dead in Gaya. So whistleblower, actually, he followed a proper protocol. He reported it to the internal authorities, but then internal authorities failed to take any action in this case. He further reported it to the Prime Minister office, that it was the external parties, but then again they failed to take proper step, and they further handed over the letter to NHAI only, but then before being passed to the NHAI, it went into the hands of 8 people. And from there, the information was leaked, and the persons who were actually the culprit in this case, they actually, shot dead Mr. Satinder Dubey. So it is very, very essential to keep the identity of the person a secret. It is very, very essential that whatever the person is disclosing, it should not be made public, because the life of the person or the life of the whistleblower is actually at stake when he is reporting something wrong in any organization, whether it is internally or externally. Unless and until the case is being solved out, at least till that time, the identity of the person should be kept as a secret. Rather, nowadays in policy of every organization, it is very clearly mentioned that whatever be the consequences, your identity would always be kept as a secret, your name would never be disclosed. So we have seen in this case that whistleblower has to actually pay with his life while solving this case. So we'll see a short video related to this whistleblowing.
Like a referee who blows the whistle when there is a foul, whistleblowers were seen as those who signal a wrong action on the part of the employer and invite others to take action against the wrongdoing. The term itself emerged in the 1950s to refer to those workers who expose wrongdoing from within their organization. Whistleblowing received great attention in business settings and has gained wider consideration in recent years due to the actions of WikiLeaks.
This is about the truth.
And Edward Snowden.
The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default.
Who a whistleblower is an ever-evolving concept, but a crucial element of whistleblowing is that the information revealed is something that an employee should normally keep confidential. But often, the wrongdoing damages the public interest or harms others without their being aware of it. Like a criminal offense, a risk to the health and safety of others, damage to the environment. In these cases, by reporting the facts to the senior management, the employee can try to protect the public interest. If managers ignore the issue, the wrongdoing can be reported to the media or the general public. When the employee reveals this information, he or she becomes a whistleblower.
So we have seen a video related to a whistleblowing policy, which actually says that whistleblowing is not a crime. It is actually a wrong thing, which is being reported by the employee for the well-being of the community as a whole. So in this, you have to do one assignment. You have to present this case study of Satinder Dubey, which we have discussed right away in the form of PowerPoint presentation, and you need to submit the same to me. So this is all about today's lecture. We will meet in the next lecture with the next topic. Thank you.